Lakers Thunder. Early thoughts. So my quick thoughts on Lakers Thunder. I will be doing a rewatch over the weekend. I will be rewatching the first 3 games. I'm going to skip the last game because nobody played in it from the LA side. And I will be doing a series preview with Cranjus again Sunday evening. So we will be going live Sunday evening doing our series preview with big Lakers question, big Thunder question, Lakers X Factor player, Thunder X Factor player, statistical X Factor, series X Factor, miscellaneous notes, and then a series prediction. But quick and early thoughts on Lakers Thunder. Let's pull up the schedule actually, because I think the schedule is tough. I'm sure some of you have already seen it, but the schedule does not do the Lakers any favors. So it does do the Lakers, and I'll zoom in here. It does the Lakers some favors in the sense of they get the break between today and game 1. It's not a Sunday game 1, which would have been a really tough turnaround. They might have even had to have flown just straight from Houston to OKC at that point. But they get the Tuesday game 1. So they will return to LA. They'll be off tomorrow. I would assume they practice Sunday and then practice Monday before flying and fly in Monday afternoon to OKC. But it's every other day, game 1 through game 5. And game 5, of course, if necessary. Then they get a 2-day break in between game 5 and game 6, and then a 1-day break in between game 6 and game 7. So we saw the first time in this series that the Lakers had a 1-day break was in between game 3 and game 4. And even by game 3, they started to show some fatigue, some attrition. Game 4 was obviously just a rough showing. And then even game 5, they were showing some signs of being worn down. So they get the break going into game 1. But then once game 1 starts, they are thrown into the fire here. And it's every other day, including the travel days. So like in between game 2 and game 3, 1 day, including travel. In between game 4 and game 5, 1 day, including travel. So I do think that favors the younger team in OKC. But the Lakers just dealt with this in terms of having a 1-day turnaround from game 5 to game 6. So you could also say that whatever they did in between game 5 and game 6, you would hope that they can continue to do that in between the every other day nature of this series. But I think that's especially going to test LeBron and Marcus, who I think were 2 of the guys who started to not look like the same guys in the middle of the series based on the schedule. That they're getting tested immediately starting after game 1. Then in terms of some other thoughts with OKC, I mean, we have the big X factors of, does Luka return at some point in this series? I think for LA to really have a shot to win this series, Luka has to come back at some point. I think there's just a talent and shot making element here that they're really going to be missing without Luka. You also have the J-Dub injury, and I believe game 1 will be about 13 days since he was ruled out with a grade 1 hamstring strain, and he was said to be week to week. So does J-Dub return for game 1? Does J-Dub miss a couple games? And maybe OKC's like, let's see if we're up 2-0 or if it's 1-1. And like, do we need to bring, or maybe even the Lakers are up 2-0, do we need to bring J-Dub back? And they kind of calculate it that way. But those are 2 significant X factors on both sides of Luka being able to match Shai and be the best player in the series, and then J-Dub being their second best player on paper. And also, I think, played well against LA in 2 of the games in the season series. I think I am going to rewatch the film, but it's going to be tough to take away too much positively or try. Like, I don't want to take away too much from the film, because the Lakers straight up did not play well. And if you look at like Luka did not play well in the 2 games. I don't think Austin played well outside of maybe like a quarter and a half in that game in LA. LeBron had some moments in that game. Like LeBron played the best, I think, of the big 3. But I wouldn't say he was like great against the Thunder. And then DA was single digits in all 4 games in terms of points. I thought Isaiah Hartenstein kicked his butt just straight up. The Lakers struggle with Chet at times. AJ Mitchell really cooked them off the dribble. Wallace and Caruso gave them some problems. Isaiah Joe lit them up from three. So if you watch the season series, I mean, you're thinking OKC is going to sweep them by 20 plus every game. I think the Lakers will be more competitive than that. And I think the Lakers will have a lot of film to digest and look at and be like, this is not who we are. We need to do this at a higher level. But it's going to be interesting to see because pretty much everyone to a man. I think Marcus, the game in LA, had a good shooting game. Rui had a couple good low volume shooting games. I was going back and looking through the box scores and some of my notes and stuff, and just pretty much no one played well for the Lakers. And I guess again, the LA game being the closest thing to what this could look like because there was no Luka, but there was also no Shai. And Shai, I just, it's completely different Thunder team, different Thunder offense. Speaking of Shai, he's been the best player in the playoffs so far. He's averaging 33 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists, shooting 55% from the floor. Has not been shooting well on threes, but going from Şengün or Amen Thompson or whoever you wanted to say was probably Şengün, what was the Rockets' best player in the series, to Shai is like multiple tiers of player. I mean, right now you can make a strong case he's the best player in the world. And is probably going to win a second straight MVP. So Lakers are going to have their hands full with Shai specifically. And I think there will be some similar components to how they defend him with how they defended KD. But I think Shai is a much better passer than KD. And I also think OKC is used to playing with an advantage, and it's going to look much different than Houston. So I think LA can throw in some shocks and blitzes at Shai selectively, especially along the sidelines. But in terms of like the trapping him from 35, 40 feet, I don't think that's going to be an apples to apples defensive game plan for the Lakers. This is a totally different team compared to the Rockets. Like, they are a much better team on both sides of the ball. They're a much smarter team. They're much more connected. They're much deeper. They're quicker. They're more athletic. Like, it's just, it's night and day. So LA I'm really fascinated to see, like, this is the biggest test by far of JJ's young coaching career. And even comparing this to Minnesota or to Houston, like, it's just not really comparable in my opinion. So I'm really interested to see what type of defensive game plan JJ tries to cook up against OKC, because I thought Shai was the best player in the season series against the two sides. I thought he largely did whatever he wanted against the Lakers. So that's going to be something that it's going to be a real challenge for them to try to contain him. But I mean, the biggest thing of all is going to be the ball security. LA in the two games that Shai played in OKC, they just 20 plus turnovers, blown out by 29 plus in both games, not competitive, and they need to handle the ball security better. And I'm looking at Austin, I'm looking at Marcus, I'm looking at Luke, because I expect him to have the ball some as well. I'm looking at LeBron and like the back-to-back 8 turnover games he had in Houston. Lakers can't have that. They will inevitably turn the ball over 12 times, 14 times. Like, OKC is going to turn them over, but you can't be having these 20 plus turnover games, which the Lakers had 3 times in this series. Just far too many. Then possession battle, already touched on that a little bit earlier. I think a couple other things here from the matchup perspective. If we go to, I had a couple things. So someone asked me about outside of turnovers, what are some of the big things? So for me, I noted transition defense, the scheme against Shai, the possession battle, which again, I think LA can hold their own in, if not win the rebounding battle, matching OKC's lineup versatility. So OKC, one of the differences between them and Houston is they're going to go to a 2 big look. I mean, they start a 2 big look with Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein, but they also can go to a 2 big look with Chet and the second, the center, Jalen Williams, and he's going to space the floor. And he's been playing I like sneakily much better over the second half of the season and become like a real stretch big option for them. And I think like he's a guy that the Lakers are going to have to pay attention to, and that could space you out. He's also a guy that's probably going to get into some that's probably the leading candidate from the OKC side. Him or Dort are the two guys that we'll probably get into it with some Lakers at some point. They got the one big look where they could go with Chet, they could go with Hartenstein, they could go with Jalen Williams, and they could also go small. I think they would prefer to go small with J-Dub back, but you can go to some lineup and even with Chet, you could argue like because he can't space the floor, that's almost his own version of like big small ball, but they can throw out some lineups with like a J-Dub, Shai, Dort, Caruso, Wallace, something like that, or throw in AJ Mitchell. And then I think they have to contain at least one of Chet or AJ Mitchell. I expect Shai to have a big series. I think Shai is going to be high 20s to low 30s on like reasonable efficiency. That's just, he's a metronome. He produces at the same level basically against anybody. But the guys that you got to be careful, you can't have Shai drop 30 a game and then Chet's at 22 a game and then AJ Mitchell is at 20, 22 a game. Like that already, 76 points or whatever from just those three guys. And that's before we even mentioned J-Dub coming back or Isaiah Joe or just, Jared. Like they have so many weapons that I think that they got to cut off one of OKC's limbs. So between the two, I actually think Chet might be the one that might be a little bit easier for LA specifically. If you're putting DA on him and that's DA's primary focus, I'm not saying he could do it. I'm not saying it'll be successful, but I think AJ Mitchell's a little bit more of a matchup problem for LA just because his speed and power and shiftiness. I think he's a guy that will live in the mid range and be a 3-level guy for OKC. But those are some of my keys just going into this series without diving into the rewatch, without looking at, I watched a couple of the OKC Phoenix games and similarly, those games kind of all went the same way. They're competitive to start. At some point, OKC just breaks you and blows the game open. And they won 3 of those games by double figures. The 4th game, they won by 9. And so they were the only team in the first round to sweep. Like they're a pretty good team. So the Lakers, like this is the biggest test of the playoffs for the Lakers. If they get past OKC, they can beat whoever comes out of San Antonio, Minnesota. I assume it'll be San Antonio, and then they can win the championship. Like it's that, right? It's if you could beat that team, it's kind of like picking on the biggest bully at school. If you could take down the biggest bully, you could beat anybody. You might have a bloody nose coming out of the series, but like this is it, right? Like this is the biggest test. This is Denver did not want this. That Denver wanted to be out of this side of the bracket, and you see what happened. They ended up losing in round 1. Like Lakers were ready for the smoke, and we'll see starting on Tuesday how ready they truly are for this. But with all that said, about to get into the Q&A. Before we do, quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Cozy Earth. I'll be back in exactly a minute.
A quick shout out to Cozy Earth for sponsoring today's show. I'm on here talking basketball, watching games, looking at numbers, grinding film. But what about when you need some downtime? You want to be comfortable. You want to be cozy. And that is where Cozy Earth comes in. They got robes and slippers built for all those quiet moments, like relaxing after a long work day or just kicking back and watching a game. And with Mother's Day coming up, this is actually a great gift idea because it's not just a random gift. It's something that she's actually going to use every day. The robes are super soft. They have multiple styles, and the slippers are built to be worn all day, not just around the house for a few minutes. And the best part is you can try it risk-free. They have an 100-night trial and a 10-year warranty, so you're not really taking a risk here. And so if you're looking for a thoughtful gift for yourself or a mother in your life, go to cozyearth.com and use code BUHA for 20% off. That's code BUHA for 20% off. And if there's a survey after you check out, just let them know you came from the show, Buha's Block. Because at the end of the day, home starts with mom.